Tens of thousands of Israeli reservists are expected to report to duty today ahead of a planned offensive to take full control of Gaza City. The government says calling up reservists is necessary to fulfill its goal of destroying Hamas. Israel is pressing ahead with the plan to take Gaza City despite mounting pressure from home and abroad to end the war. So, what is the exact Israeli military plan, and can it really be implemented? Let's have a look.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is convinced. In the coming weeks, he believes Israel will finally achieve the goals it's been chasing since October 7th, 2023.
It started in Gaza, and it will end in Gaza. We will not leave these monsters there. We will release all our hostages. We will ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel.
That means even more military force. The main target now is Gaza City, the largest urban center in the Gaza Strip, and the core of its political, economic, and cultural life. There are an estimated 1 million Palestinians there these days, cramped into 45 square kilometers. Israel claims it is also a strategic stronghold for Hamas. The challenges awaiting Israel on its way to conquer the city are plentiful. First, civilians. Gaza City holds an estimated 1 million residents, some from the city, some fled from other parts of the Strip. In the last 3 weeks, despite Israeli evacuation orders, only a few thousands have left, casting doubt on Israel's time plan. The second challenge is urban warfare. Gaza City is a dense maze of high rises, narrow alleys, and rubble, conditions limiting the efficacy of Israel's air force. Fighting will require slow progress from soldiers on the ground and will take time and manpower that Israel may not have. And the fighting will also have to happen simultaneously underground, in Hamas's extensive tunnels system. It's used for command, movement, and surprise attacks, giving them key advantage. Complicating matters further is the fact that Hamas is believed to be holding Israeli hostages inside Gaza's tunnels. A full assault risks killing them, something both captives' families and military officials are afraid of. So what's next? Israeli forces have already been operating in parts of the city over the past weeks, claiming to now control over 40% of it. The exact start date of any full-scale city occupation remains unclear, but thousands of reserve soldiers are reporting for duty these days, and attacks on the city will intensify. Israel's plan is to encircle the city and apply pressure, first on the population, and after it clears, on Hamas. It will be starting with air and artillery strikes to be followed by ground attacks using infantry, armored vehicles, and drones. Officials in the military say it will take long months, up to a year, to, quote, free Gaza from Hamas and its estimated 10,000 remaining militants. Taking initial control over the city, however, has a much closer symbolic deadline, October 7th, 2025, exactly 2 years after the attack that started this war.
And for more on Israel's Gaza City offensive, we're joined now by military analyst Marina Miron from King's College London. Marina, how much resistance can the Israeli military expect to face in Gaza City? Just how strong is Hamas there?
Good afternoon, Terry. Well, there are different reports when it comes to the strength of Hamas in the Gaza City. Hamas has seen a lot of military setbacks, but it still has the ability to regroup, and it also retains command and control. That being said, given the fact that Israeli military says it's the last stronghold for Hamas, and they will be fighting for their survival, regardless of the numbers, the motivation will be there to do as much damage to the IDF or to try to survive as much as possible. And this is just an internal factor. We also don't know whether there will be any external support to Hamas and in what way. So this will be a very difficult operation per se, because Hamas has nothing to lose anymore. If it's fighting for its survival, it will be a very bloody fight.
From Israel's perspective, what would constitute success for this offensive?
It depends if we're talking about political success or military success, and we have to understand that those two should be aligned ideally. So the political goal would be set first, taking into account military capabilities, and then the military goal would be subordinate to the political goal. Now, from a military perspective, of course, you have to militarily defeat Hamas. So that would be one goal. The problem here is that we also have the hostages issue, not to mention, obviously, the ongoing turmoil of the civilians there. And it seems like the Israeli military or high-ranking officials within the Israeli military agrees that it's a difficult goal to achieve, or two goals to achieve simultaneously, because they seem to be mutually exclusive. The more the IDF pushes into the Gaza City and corners Hamas, the less the likelihood that those hostages will survive. Firstly, because of the duration that such operation might take, and secondly, because Hamas will have no incentive to free the hostages. So there is a chance that these hostages will be killed either by Hamas or die from hunger, or will be killed as friendly fire by Israeli soldiers.
Now, Gaza City is densely populated with civilians. Realistically, what steps can be taken to reduce civilian casualties in what is expected to be intense urban fighting?
It is very difficult in such a scenario, and it's always great to plan, try to evacuate civilians before you enter the city. But that being said, you can maybe slightly reduce civilian casualties and collateral damage, but you cannot avoid it in such a setting, specifically because when we're talking about Hamas, you don't have designated uniforms. You cannot, they live amongst the population. So it's very difficult to distinguish from the Hamas fighters from the normal population, plus that terrain. Why armies don't like urban fighting, even if we look at Ukraine, the Russians are trying to avoid large cities and encircle them, specifically because it's difficult to fight in an urban area. And if you look at the Gaza City, you have the density of the population, so you constantly have civilians there, sort of from a military standpoint, interfering with the operation. So you have to get around them somehow, make sure that you don't hit them. On the other hand, you have high-rise buildings, so you have roofs which benefit the defender, which would be Hamas in this case. You have underground networks which still have not been destroyed. These buildings have flats, you have narrow alleys, and so on, all of which complicates the operation for IDF. When it comes to using specific equipment, because they will have to look, for instance, air power. They will have to decide whether they want to discriminate or they want to risk colossal collateral damage. And for the infantry on the ground, the threats can come from any direction, making it very, very difficult, because Hamas knows this operation is underway, they're expecting it, they're preparing for it, and they will be trying to make it as difficult as possible.
Marina, thank you very much. That was military analyst Marina Miron.
Thank you for having me.
I'm joined now by Yoav Porat. He is with the Soldiers for the Hostages, a group of hundreds of Israeli soldiers who have become conscientious objectors, refusing to serve in the Gaza war as long as the Israeli government does not pursue a deal to secure the release of the hostages. Yoav, it's good to have you with us. So what is the goal here? By not reporting for duty, do you think that's going to pressure the current government to make a deal to bring the hostages home earlier?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Yes, basically, this is like, let's say, the main goal or the main purpose. Obviously, the reality doesn't work this way. So what I hoped, and my understanding, others in my group thought that it will create some voice for other people that thinking about it, because in Israel the military service is a very big taboo. It's like a holy cow, as they say. And many people are afraid to do so.
Well, Yoav, let me pick up on that.
Encouraging more people.
I want to just pick up on the fact that in Israel, everyone is required to do several years of military service, the entire population. So you're right, the military does play a key role in the lives of all Israelis. What happens to a reservist who refuses to report for duty?
Yeah, well, it really depends on your unit and on your chief commander. It can be usually up to 30 days in jail. That's usually the maximum if you are on the reserve forces. If you are on the duty of the 3 years between your 18 to 21, then the punishment can be much higher.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, too, what could be motivating the reservists who are refusing to report for duty. And I say that because yesterday we reported here that the International Association of Genocide Scholars has accused Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. Is there a fear among the reservists that you represent that if they report for duty, that they could be ordered to do something that they would consider tantamount to committing genocide?
Mm. Yeah, well, I think I can speak on my own. I don't think that what's going on in Gaza is genocide, but I do think that the situation that the government putting the army inside to be in charge of such a huge population with those conditions are absolutely causing soldiers as personals and the whole army to do things that are unethical, at least. I think Israel have all the right to defend itself and pursue fighting Hamas, but there are some red lines. When you're in the army, one of the first things you're being taught is that during combat you have to obey to any command, because otherwise you cannot fight.
What's a red line? What's a red line?
Yeah, so a red line, for me, the red line has been crossed by the government many times, but first and for all is not pursuing releasing the hostages. Right now, continuing fighting and bombing in Gaza and Gaza City are only putting more risk on the hostages. This is first and for all. There are many, many other reasons why we should not accept the approach of this government. So many things happen, doing the same thing for 2 years and hoping for a different result. It's like not logical, and ignoring what's going on with the civilians in Gaza, with the Palestinians, it's also not rational in my eyes.
Did you feel this way, almost 2 years ago after the October Hamas attacks in Israel? Or have your feelings changed?
I'm not sure what your question. Can you repeat, please?
No. How did you feel immediately following the Hamas attacks in Israel? Compare that with how you feel about what the military is doing now. Has it changed?
Well, yeah, I can say it's changed. Right after, I felt like Israel need to do something dramatically. I really hoped it won't be only a military action, but it will be companioned with a diplomatic effort, hopefully with other countries or international force that can replace Hamas as the ruler of Gaza, which can give us a hope for the future, for the longer future. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And also, we have to remember that as Israelis, we, of course, first for the blame is Hamas, but we also blame our own government that was in charge for many, many years and didn't put the army to be ready for this attack. And basically, they are in charge of what happened in October 7th. And they are trying to fight this war for 2 years. And they failed already. So you can give them some time, but for now, they need to go home.
Okay. Yoav Porat with Soldiers for the Hostages. Yoav, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, I want to take this now to Aaron David Miller. He's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Mr. Miller, it's good to have you with us. I just spoke with an Israeli soldier representing hundreds of Israeli reservists refusing to report for duty, who are demanding that the government bring home the hostages. I mean, this level of open protests in Israel, it is rare. Do you think it can change the course of this government?
Not as of Tuesday, the 2nd of September. Look, altering the policies of the current Israeli government could occur under a number of circumstances. The first would be resignations by the chief of staff, the head of Shin Bet, the head of Mossad, and the other intelligence agencies, accompanied by massive protests, including the Israeli trade unions, Histadrut, which represents maybe 700,000 or more employees, to bring sustained and significant pressure against the current Israeli government. Or alternatively, a fundamental change in the trajectory of the Trump administration's policies toward Netanyahu and Gaza. I see no indication of either the first or the second. And the amount of pressure that's been applied by the Europeans, by the Arab states, has frankly been underwhelming. So no, I think right now, it seems to me that the Israeli ground operation against Gaza City and perhaps beyond is going to continue at some considerable cost to the lives of the hostages, the Palestinian civilian population of Gaza, and Israel's international credibility and its reputation.
You say Gaza City and perhaps beyond. I mean, do you think that the course that we're looking at right now militarily, that the IDF, it's not going to stop at Gaza City? I mean, that it maybe could go to Han Yunis in the south, for example. I mean, is there an end game obvious to you anywhere in sight?
No, because this has, in my judgment, ceased to become a war with concrete and attainable military objectives. Hamas, as a military organization, has been decapitated and destroyed. It exists as an insurgency. 50 or more Israeli soldiers have died since May, since the resumption of Operation Gideon Chariots 1. This is now going to be Gideon Chariots number 2. I don't see any prospect that a major ground op against Gaza City is going to result in either freedom for the hostages or further erosion of what is going to be residual influence on the part of Hamas. So if you want to destroy Hamas, you offer an alternative. You offer an economic, a political, and a security alternative. That can only be brought about by ending the war and working with the international community, key Arab states, and hopefully some credible Palestinian representation over time in Gaza. But right now, I think the Israelis are on a road, frankly, to nowhere.
And the role of the hostages that remain in Gaza, the ones that are alive, I mean, it seems like the further away in time we come from the October 2023 Hamas attacks, the further we move, the less weight these hostages have in the calculus of the government and the military.
I think that's true of the current government. I don't think that's the calculation of Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir. What you have, frankly, is an unprecedented public divide, like in no other military campaign or operation that I'm familiar with in Israel's military history. You have the Chief of Staff basically saying, take an interim deal. We can deal with Hamas in many other ways, but the hostages are diminishing. I mean, every day that goes by, the fragility of their existence grows ever more fragile, not to mention, of course, the impact that this is having on the 2.2 million Palestinians of Gaza, over half of whom are children, or at least under the age of 15. So no, I don't think. I think it figures prominently in the Israeli public. I think the security elites want those people home and a strategy to produce it. I don't think it's having much of an impact on the current Israeli government, Netanyahu and his close advisors, ministers.
Okay. Aaron David Miller, as always, we appreciate your time and your valuable insights tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.